I think assembly time on any project is probably the most exciting.
It is. It's one of those times where you get to see everything that you've been working on come together, but it's not the time to rush.
Yeah, we've taken a lot of time to make sure that the joinery is exactly right. When you go to put the glue on, you want to make sure that that's right also.
That's right. You don't want to be cleaning up a lot of squeeze out after you got everything together.
So what we're going to do is run through a lot of the common woodworking joints that you're going to find on practically any furniture project and help you know exactly where that glue goes. So if you're ready to get your woodworking projects off to a great start, just follow these tips. I have a small case piece here with 3 dados in it. And when I go to assemble it, I want to make sure the glue is in the right spot to make sure that this project stands the test of time. So what am I going to do? What I'm going to do is run a bead of glue down the length of the dado. Same thing goes here for a groove as well. Then what I want to do is come back with a brush and brush out that glue so that I have an even film covering the entire surface. Not only the bottom, but the 2 front and back edges as well. Now when I fit my panel into place, the glue covers exactly where I need it to cover, and I don't get a lot of squeeze out. There's one essential joint in woodworking that often gets overlooked, and that's the humble rabbet joint. It creates a little square shoulder that helps to register 2 pieces together. In addition, it doubles the amount of glue surface that you have and offers a much stronger joint. The key here though is getting the glue in the right spot. And what I like to do is to apply a thin bead of glue right at that shoulder joint. Now the Titebond glue bottle has that chisel tip that fits right in there so that when I drag it through, I get a bead of glue exactly where I want it to. I'm going to come back with a brush, spread out that glue along both surfaces of the joint. The key here is to get a thin, even coat all along it. That way when I put the 2 pieces together, what I'm going to end up with is a clean looking joint that's going to stand the test of time and has a minimal amount of squeeze out on this inside corner where it can be tricky to clean up.
So when I'm spraying glue on mortise and tenons, I have a couple things I do in particular. First, I like to use a little glue brush that has a paddle end. That allows me to apply the glue on the inside of the mortise. If I apply it to the tenon, it tends to scrape off as you're inserting that joint together, and then you have a lot of squeeze out. And the other thing that I do is I make sure I hit the 2 cheeks really well, because that is the large bearing surface of this joint. Once you get that glue in place and you slide that joint together, you should be left with minimal squeeze out and a joint that's going to last for a long time.
Here's what I do with these solid wood connectors. The first thing I'll do is to put a little bit of glue down into the dowel hole so that I have just a little bit of glue down in there, then I can fit the dowels in place. Similarly, I'll run a bead of glue in all of my biscuit slots for the case pieces. Then I can fit the biscuits into those slots. Now when I'm ready to connect it to the mating part, I don't want to end up with glue dripping all over the place. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach here, and I'll brush glue on the exposed surfaces of the biscuits, and the same way on the dowels, brushing a little bit of glue on those pieces. Now when I fit them together, I know that I have solid glue coverage on all the parts, and I've minimized the amount of mess.
There are times where we need a little bit thicker material and it's just not either readily available or economical to purchase. So instead, that's when we glue together our material and laminate stock to make thicker stock than what we can buy. What I do is I like to take a good quality glue like Titebond 2 or Titebond Original and spread that out nice and even over the work surface. Then I'll use a notched trowel and I'll spread that out so it's nice and even. Now I'm not going to bring that glue all the way to the edges, however. I want to make sure that I'm close to the edge enough that when I apply clamps it's going to squeeze it right to the edge, but I'm not going to get a ton of squeeze out. And then here comes the trick. I like to come in with a pin nailer and shoot a couple of pins in the corners to keep those 2 pieces from wiggling around as I'm applying clamps. And if it's a plywood panel like this, I'll even leave one of my parts slightly oversized. That way, after I glue them together, I can come back with a flush trim router bit and trim them down so they match perfectly. So following these little tips and tricks, I'm ensured that I'm going to have a good quality glue up that's going to have even glue throughout it, and it's going to stay together for years to come.